Well, hello and welcome to the Insurtech Story podcast, where we bring you the latest insights, innovations, and real-world perspectives shaping the future of insurance. I'm your host, Surya Saha, and it's my pleasure to have you with us. You can find the Insurtech Story podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, and Audible. So wherever you like to listen, we are right there with you, decoding the technology and trends transforming the world of insurance. In today's episode, we will explore a powerful shift happening across the insurance industry, which is on rewiring the insurance operating model from offshoring to orchestrating value. For years, insurance and insurers leaned on offshoring as the foundation for operational efficiency, optimizing costs, streamlining back offices, and achieving scale. But in today's digital-first AI-driven landscape, efficiency is no longer just the benchmark. So the question now is, how can insurers move beyond cost reduction and orchestrate value, leveraging data and technology to create connected, intelligent, and adaptive operating models? And to help us unpack this fascinating evolution, we are joined by someone who has been at the forefront of insurance transformation in the Asia Pacific region, which is Jitin Sharma, who is the head of insurance for Asia Pacific at Infosys Consulting. Jitin is a seasoned strategy and business transformation leader with over 18 years of experience advising major insurers across the UK, Western Europe, and Asia Pacific. Based in Singapore, he heads the insurance consulting practice for Infosys in the region. Jitin has successfully led large-scale transformation programs and served as a trusted advisor to top management at leading insurance companies including RSA, DLG, Lloyd's of London, QBE, AIG, Allianz, Prudential, and AXA, to name a few. Before joining Infosys Consulting, he held leadership roles at Deloitte, EY, and KPMG. So, Jitin, it's a pleasure to have you on the Insurtech Story podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Surya. It's great to be here. And thank you for the elaborate introduction. Very excited to talk to you today.
Great to have you, Jitin. We have been talking about this particular aspect on how the insurance industry is undergoing a fundamental shift from a traditional offshoring model focused on cost and scale to a new paradigm of value orchestrations. So my first question to you is, how are insurers moving beyond the traditional offshoring for cost efficiency model towards value orchestration that perhaps blends global talent, technology, and ecosystem partnership? And of course, you have been in this ecosystem working around these critical areas for decades and in between regions and companies. So how do you see this happening?
Now, this is a great question, great opener question, Surya. Look, before I get into the question, it's also important for all of us to acknowledge that the insurance industry in general, just like with any other industry as well, right, is going through some very big changes right now as we speak, right? And those changes are not just on the surface. We've started to talk things around deep transformation in how insurers are thinking, in how they are operating, and in how they are constantly thinking about delivering value, right? I've seen some of these changes, and I work very closely with insurers, as you said, right, in Europe before moving to Asia Pacific. And what I'll try and do today is to share a little bit of my first-hand experience of what I've seen, where insurers have succeeded in the past. And it's always good to kind of share a point of view. So very happy to kind of again, have this healthy dialogue with you. Now coming back to your questions around moving beyond traditional offshoring, for cost efficiency and moving more towards value orchestration. Look, to put it very simply, again, we've come a long way from the days where offshoring was just about cutting costs. At least I started my career where offshoring was all about labor arbitrage. And now insurers are looking to build smarter, more connected global teams that can actually drive innovation. Think of it like this, right? So we're no longer sort of running a factory model. It's more of an orchestration Every part of the business, whether it's a global capability center, a technology partner that they work with, or a data team, they have specific roles to play in creating something valuable for their customers together. I remember we ran a recent survey with a few of our clients, and from the top of my head, I think there was around 75 or 80% of the participants, and these were all insurance leaders who've made AI transformation as a top priority for them. And that tells you everything, right? That the focus is shifting from cost to capability. Um, and as we help these insurers turn their offshore centers into real innovation hubs, I cannot help but to think of again an example where we redesigned a GCC function for an insurer to focus on more of agile delivery and an AI-led experimentation. It's more of a place where they are delivering advanced analytic at scale. They are able to release the products, the go-to market a lot faster. And what they're also able to do is to drive efficiencies because they can focus on their talent pool in a particular location and try and kind of scale it from there. So that's my initial sort of going in view for that question. I hope that makes sense, Surya.
No, of course, it's a fantastic point, Jitin. But just to take a step back and for the benefit of our listeners, would you be able to tell us what value orchestration really looks like in insurance? Like, for example, if it is like, you know, platform plus partnership mindset, or outcome over task, hybrid global talent orchestration. Of course, you have taken us through some of these elements, but if you really have to, provide a full kind of an value added explanation, what would really be when it comes to insurance?
I mean, again, the answer is pretty simple, right? Look, at the end of the day, insurers, they've also started to think about how they can deliver value to their customers, right? And if you very simply, without going into too much of detail, right, if you think about values and you divide that into little chunks of values, right? It's as simple as finding a formula of identifying where you best source that value from. And then the sum
Yeah,
total of that value together, sort of whether it's in the form of a connected ecosystem
right,
or a different orchestration of different services that are available, the sum total of that value then gets delivered to the customer. And that's what insurers are thriving for.
right. No, absolutely. We are, of course, living in a world that is being driven by AI transformation. And of course, there are many other emerging technologies that comes alongside with it. So from this, particular angle, if I have to look at how are emerging technologies like GenAI, data platforms, or intelligent automation reshaping the insurance operating model, and from process efficiency, say for example, to experience led transformation.
Yeah, again, look, I'm not a Gen AI expert per se, Surya, but what I can definitely say is that Gen AI is here to stay and it's changing the game already. It's not just helping with tasks anymore. It's actually
Yeah,
helping
yeah,
people think better, make faster decisions, and almost personalize every single service that you expect, whether it's from your insurer or for any other
yeah,
provider that's out there in ways that we could not have even thought about before. The pace at which Gen AI is changing the landscape is also quite fascinating, but scary at the same time as well. We again, we take now bringing it back to the insurance context, right? Now, let's just take a very simple example. You spoke about the emerging technologies like Gen AI data platforms in terms of how they are reshaping the operating model from an efficiency perspective or from an experience standpoint as well. Take underwriting and claims, like probably the two most very basic and core insurance business units that exists, right? If I were to break it very, very simply, insurance is about risk management and paying out, when you are most in need. So underwriting and claims, they are probably the two very strong pillars of any insurance organization. Now, in terms of underwriting, Gen AI is helping them, make very, very fast decisions and very smart decisions, right? Being very, very responsive. GenAI is helping in the underwriting space to kind of do better risk management that wasn't there before. And we all know from a claims perspective, right? We are seeing end-to-end automation coming in. GenAI, these models, they're taking decisions on claims output. They are taking decisions on the adjudication process of a claims, etc. So we see the infusion of GenAI across the insurance value chain. Again, I always like to kind of include examples rather than talking theory, right? So I'll bring in again an example that comes to my mind. We were recently working with an Australian insurer, and we used GenAI. And again, Infosys has deep both brains and pockets in terms of building GenAI capabilities for its clients. And we actually use GenAI for claims triage and for policy recommendations for this Australian insurer. We were able to achieve faster service for them. They also ran a sort of a mini CSAT survey after the implementation of this technology, and people were seemingly very, very happy with the way that the customer experience journey would have evolved, and how they were able to kind of look at their claims journey a lot more seamlessly. So we've seen this firsthand again, with our clients, and it's not just Gen AI, right? You spoke about data platforms becoming the backbone of insurance, which is absolutely true, right? Your AI capabilities are as good as the data that you have. Um, and many insurers are using AI to handle unstructured data, and automating workflows as well. It's like giving, sort of, I can't think of a better analogy, right? It's like giving your business some sort of a nervous system where everything is connected and responsive, right? So the better your data is structured, the better data platform technologies you
Yeah,
have, the more quickly you can use the Lego block structure to build Gen AI capabilities on top of
absolutely. If I have to ask you, just maybe on top of your mind, what would be the, say, top six practices, or rather best practices, that you would suggest on how this emerging technologies should be perceived, or even taken into consideration when you really want to make such transformation in the insurance space?
best practices. Again, are you talking in a particular context, or are you talking
From the
about?
application of these emerging technologies to reshape these insurance operating models.
Okay, fair enough. Right. So again, from a best practice perspective, again, talking from experience, we've seen that we should always look at, whenever it comes to, again, adopting Gen AI as a technology, right? You got to test with an area where you are most comfortable with,
Yeah,
right? Where you think that your data is structured, because again, the confidence that you're going to build from the solutions or from those Gen AI implementations are going to sort of give you further platform to kind of expand into other areas, right? So one of the best practices that I would say is always to choose an area where you are comfortable in terms of the confidence of data accuracy that you have.
yeah,
um, the another best practice probably would be to not be over ambitious with Gen AI, right? Again, we also have to understand, I'm not a Gen AI expert, as I said at the start, but we all have to understand that, it's a sort of a technology that evolves and learns, and sort of grows in terms of maturity, as it plays along, right? So we should not have over expectations that it would fix all my problems as soon as I implement GenAI. And again, we've seen this with some of our clients where, they are almost in a rush to implement some sort of a GenAI solution because they want to either release a market statement, or they want to go out to the market from a competitive perspective and say that, look, we also have GenAI infused across our value chain. And to me, again, I always advise my clients that, it's not just about Gen AI implementation, it's about thinking through what sort of business impacts and what problems are you trying to solve, and is that sustainable slash scalable within your operating model. Um, the other thing that comes to my mind is always connected back to some sort of a business metric. right? Look, I always see technology as an enabler, right? It can
Yeah, yeah,
certainly, and today's day and age, right, you cannot avoid technology. It is here to stay and it will only evolve. But at the end of the day, we are all humans, right? We are trying to solve a business problem. So always try and connect your technology back to a business metric that you are trying to solve for your business or for your customers, for your internal employees or for your external customers, be it whatever, right? The stakeholders
yeah,
could be different.
yeah,
But it's very important for us to take that KPI or a metric view, just so
yeah,
that we can prove that this is tangible and it has made a real difference.
yeah.
And then the last
Absolutely.
thing that I'm going to say, sorry, Surya, before we move on, is accountability as well in terms of best practice for Gen AI adoption,
Yeah,
right? We should have open conversations within the organization. There should be proper roles and responsibilities that are defined, where people absolutely understand the responsibility and the accountability of them to deliver.
yeah,
Let's say if you name a stakeholder and make them the Gen AI champion or strategist or whatever title you want to come up with, but the accountability should be absolutely clear, that my role is to transform my organization and infuse Gen AI wherever possible. So these are some of the examples that comes
yeah.
to the document. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. The last point is so valid that you spoke on the accountability part, which is of course not a technical aspect, but was one of the very important areas that we as leaders must focus on whenever we are looking at any sort of transformations. But Jitin, thanks for that input there. So moving on a bit on the, if I mean, we are focusing on the offshoring element of it in this discussion, and in today's generation we are seeing a lot of evolvement in how these global capability centers are coming up, how in the previous era we saw the captives and the BPMs and so on and so forth, right? So as these GCCs and the strategic partners are evolving, and especially into these innovation hubs, how can insurers ensure governance, culture, as well as capability alignment across geographies to really truly orchestrate value at scale? This question may not be really technical, but more on how you're seeing from a behavioral and experience perspective.
Oh, certainly, and it's not technical in nature, and I'm glad that you asked this question, Surya, because to me this is where things get real, right?
Yeah,
We can all
absolutely.
write thought leadership on a paper, we can all design models on a PowerPoint, but how do you deliver this in reality, right? We can all have the best technology in the world, but if your teams aren't aligned culturally and strategically, I promise you it won't work, right? So
True.
governance needs to be less about control, and to me, it's more about support, right? Think of it like setting
Yeah,
up
no, well
guardrails
said.
on a highway, right? So you're guiding the journey, you're not blocking it. And sometimes people they misinterpret governance in terms of hierarchy, that people are taking an sort of overruling a decision over the other. But it's not about that. It's about providing the right set of guiding mechanism or guardrails, as I said, in order for the organization to feel that it's been ably supported to take the right call.
Yeah,
Then moving on to cultures, right? Cultures again matters too. And again, this is a topic where we can all go on and on. And especially in a very fragmented geography where we work with, right? So I obviously, as you said, and based out of Singapore, but I look after the region. So we work with a lot of insurers in the region, and doesn't matter if you're working with a Malaysian insurer or a Filipino insurer or a Thai insurer, right? The culture matters, right? We've had specific feedbacks from our clients to say, culture is where we need to sort of, make sure that our people, relate back to their organizations, right? We need teams across geographies to share some sort of core values and goals together, of course, with due respect to their local nuances that they have. And that's where I think, our we have a dedicated practice at Infosys, where we're helping to kind of build these agile squads that are working together seamlessly, and also looking into the cultural aspect. of things. Um, we pay a lot of attention to that aspect as well. Um, and again, in terms of, I think, skills, I think you touched upon skills as well. Um, in general, I've seen that insurers are struggling with getting the right sort of skills. There is a talent gap in the market, and that's why capability alignment is key, where we are blending domain knowledge with the upcoming technology skills, and we're building a strong partnership to fill these gaps. Now, it's easier said than done, and I completely recognize and acknowledge that for me to say this is one thing, but in reality and practicalities are different. But that's what the core pillars are, and that's how you sort of take care of the governance, the cultural, the capability alignment aspects of things. So that's my point of view. So
Absolutely. I think it's a very valid point. And, with this evolving model of GCC, it's very much important how we really align our teams culturally, and of course how the top down approach really works up when it comes to real uh, ground governance, technical aspects, AI trainings. These things would keep coming and going, and as technology evolves, but the basic foundation of aligning with the culture and governance and capability is something that we really need to work harder and shape our mindset to really align with these areas. With that, Jitin, a fantastic discussion, and thank you for sharing your thoughts today. An absolute honor having you with us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, Surya. And thank you for having me. As I said, look, I want to close by just repeating probably what I said, right? Look, insurance is no longer just about managing risk, while it sits at the heart of it, right? It's
Absolutely.
about creating value, right? Our
Yeah.
customers, they're expecting insurers to create value in a smarter, faster, and probably in a more human way.
Yeah.
So the operating model is the foundation, and it's being rebuilt sort of to support this new emerging vision that we are having and we're
Yeah.
seeing for our insurers. So again, thank you for having me. I hope this was helpful and
Absolutely.
insightful.
There's a
And
very refreshing, content there. Thank you for sharing your experience. I'm sure it's going to help our listeners a lot, especially when the insights comes from fresh hand experiences rather than just data. So to all our listeners, we will see you soon at our next episode. Till then, take care and goodbye for now.